This is the One Man Gang, and you're listening to another wrestling podcast.
Wrestling podcast!
The cream of the crop! Nobody does it better.
They make sure you ain't booty.
The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
It's time for another wrestling podcast.
We are taking over.
Drink it in, man. Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
And if you're not down with that, then he's got two words for you.
When we talk about the legends of the sport, there's only two in my book.
AWB, another wrestling podcast. Bada boom, realest guys in the room. How you doing?
All right. Welcome to another holiday wrestling podcast.
Ho, 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 bitches.
I'm Credo.
And I'm Angry Cooter.
And we are the Social Assassins.
And as always, we're just calling it how we see it, baby.
You know, everybody has to have their own holiday show, their own Christmas show. So here, why not have another holiday wrestling podcast? I mean, this is it, Cooter. It's Christmas week. There's other holidays going on, but this is it, man. This is the end of the year.
Oh, I know. I'm such a Grinch. I really detest the holidays for multiple reasons. So I, for one, cannot wait for them to finally be over.
Well, there's a lot of things that happened this year, but you know what? I think on today's show, we're going to have to get into... it's almost like our Festivus, like on Seinfeld. I think we can have our own wrestling Festivus where we can air our grievances, but also talk about some of the gifts that happened in pro wrestling this year. So we'll have a little bit of a mix coming up a little bit later, so stay tuned for that. But Cooter, who's going to be joining us on another wrestling podcast today?
Well, this week joining us in the studio, it's none other than the One Man Gang.
That's right, guys. You might also remember him as the African Dream, Akeem. He's going to be joining us to the Twin Towers with the Big Boss Man. We'll see what he's up to. We'll talk to him. What's he been up to, pretty much. So stay tuned for that one. Always a blast to have a guest, a superstar on each week, just for each and every one of you out there. So that's our gift to you in some sort of way. But Cooter, it's been a big week, man. Let's get right into the week that was. First off, Charlotte is now a 4-time women's champion in less than 7 months since she actually won the championship. So what do you think about that one?
I love it. I told you, Charlotte is in a whole nother league. She just proved it in that match. She outperformed Sasha Banks, and Sasha Banks is no slouch, but Charlotte is just on a completely different level of just performing. I mean, she is incredible.
Yeah, I'm kind of that's it too. Sasha Banks doesn't get a rematch, so Sasha's gonna have to find her way back up to the championship scenes. But do you think it was a little bit much this year with how many times they actually went back and forth with the championship, or do you think it told a good story at the end of the day?
I think they want to spread out these rivalries. I mean, because we all were very worried for the women's division down in NXT when they brought up the 4 horsewomen. And now, what happens when you run through 2 or 3 of these rivalries? We've already had a Charlotte and Becky Lynch rivalry. Now we've had a Sasha Banks and Charlotte rivalry. Now they're jumping right into the Bayley, but they've done a good job of spreading these out. What's going to be next after Charlotte versus Bayley? I mean, we have Nia Jax waiting in the wing. And then we better pray for a little bit of a shake-up here because there's really no contenders left, at least on the Raw side.
Yeah, they definitely. I think with the whole back and forth with Sasha, I think could have been spread out a little bit. It didn't need to happen so much so often because Charlotte is a 4-time women's champion, but if you count her Divas Championship reign too, in 1 year, Cooter, she's been a 5-time, all in all, women's champion. That blows my mind. She's like not even halfway up to her father's reign almost of being a world champion. But man, I don't know. Were they just trying to like have some credibility behind the women's belt again, to where, granted, after this year, people are going to forget, that she won it 5 times in 1 year in a way, to where now that when they start calling her a 5-time women's champion, that makes it sound better. I don't know. Were they going for just to make it sound better at least?
Who the hell knows why they did it the way they did? Credo, this is one I can't call. I just don't understand why the belt had to go back and forth when you were trying to build a dominant champ. I mean, I guess there could have been ways they could have gone around and maybe spread the rivalry out without having to, make this, title go back and forth and all these rematch clauses. And that's another thing. I hope for 2017 we just get rid of the fucking rematch clause. Enough is enough with that shit.
That's right. Also too, Charlotte continues her pay-per-view winning streak.
That's a big deal, don't you think? I mean, think about
19 pay-per-views in a row, Cooter. 19 in a row she's been on and won. So that's she's got her own little streak going, I guess, for pay-per-views.
Yeah, but think of it this way. It's not too often that a title changes hands on television. She's lost that belt 3 times on television in a fucking year.
I know.
Let me ask you a serious question though. In terms of that pay-per-view as a whole, I mean, there seem to be a lot of people pissing and moaning about it. I mean, are they not understanding that it's not one of the big 4? But it was still a pretty decent show.
No, yeah, I know. And that's what people, I think, need to understand, is that all these pay-per-views in between the big 4, they're not going to be anything spectacular or like a big spectacle. It's pretty much just a over-glorified Raw or SmackDown, whichever one. But, I think they're fine. It's better than calling them in your houses. They can give them their own names and do what they want. But
you're going to roll Todd Pettengill back the fuck out here, huh?
Yeah, you can't expect too much from these the B pay-per-views, I guess. But I mean, people, that's it. People just need to stop complaining. I think after 2016, hopefully we can get them to see eye to eye with us, maybe in 2017.
Yeah, what the fuck do you want for $10?
I know, $9.99, baby.
$9.99. Listen, it's weird because there are things that I will pick and choose and watch on pay-per-views. I don't feel the need, Credo, to fucking watch every single show and every single pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I'm spending $35, $40, $50 anymore a month. It's a $10 to see a pretty decent card, above average, plus the big 4, baby. What could you possibly complain about?
Another little thing that happened this weekend, too, is that the New Day were dethroned of the WWE Raw Tag Team Championships. Sheamus and Cesaro put on a great match, Cooter. They're the new Tag Team Champions, and they also received new Raw Tag Team straps that are red and silver. What do you think about those?
I think they're cool-looking belts. I don't really have a problem with them. I don't ever really complain about how belts look. I don't want to be that guy and be like, oh my God, that belt looks like shit. Like,
I love the silver. I'm definitely digging it. I like them.
I like it better than the bronze ones, and even though the bronze ones are pretty cool too. But it is what it is. But I mean, that finish was just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it was like
Sheamus and Cesaro just finally outsmarting the New Day. Cesaro faking the tag, going in and taking one for the team just to let Sheamus fucking run in there and get the pin. Incredible.
Yeah, and now, okay, all in all, we have new tag champs, but are we done seeing like 400-plus day streaks with this? I mean, how long do you think these guys should hold on to the straps?
Oh, I would love to see them have a run, and I can already see them screwing this booking up because, I mean, you remember a few weeks ago they had that bar fight with Sheamus and Cesaro, and then they finally starting to get along. And now that they've won the belts, you have Sheamus acting like, that magnanimous prick that he is again. Yep. And now they're not going to get along, and they're basically making – I'm like, ugh. You made them a team. You made them strong. You gave them this incredible win over, the longest reigning, tag team champs in history. Sorry, Demolition. But yeah, and this is how you. I mean, I hope they get a decent run, at least like a quarter of a year. Like, give them 3-4 months.
Yeah, maybe till Mania or something.
Yeah, exactly. Then we could put it on the Shining Stars.
Oh no! All right, let's just move on before we get into that one. But how about SmackDown, man? This week, and it seems like SmackDown has its own attitude error. Okay, Miz, first of all, calls out Renee for sleeping with Ambrose, and she smacks him and then walks off. Okay, so like that comment alone is not PG-esque, because, you know, it's like little Jimmy in the audience is like, Mommy,
yes.
What does that mean, you know? And okay, so that's one point. Another point I want to bring up too is like there's other instances that happen, but this is just another one that stands out to me. Carmella calling out Nikki, saying that her silicone leaked into her brain. Like, really? They're calling out the implants on SmackDown now? You know, even if you can go into Enzo's whole little thing escapade with Alana a few weeks ago too, getting stripping down into her hotel room and stuff. Besides that,
you're also forgetting the fact that he was buck naked on live TV.
That's right. They
so blurred out his penis, but he was butt ass naked.
So it's okay. So it's more than SmackDown, but definitely SmackDown hit it this week. But what are we seeing here, Cooter? There's a lot more attitude happening. Could 2017 be the reemergence of maybe like a new attitude era? And I'm not saying too crazy, but something definitely a little bit different than PG, right?
Yeah, man, that Miz line. I mean, it's not too often where Miz can say something that shocks me the way that one did. I was like, oh shit, he went there? Like, that's cool. Like, I'm with it. You know me, I don't care. But this soap opera shit with Carmella, Nikki, and Natty kind of got interesting, just the way that they let Carmella say that shit. And then Natty afterwards, I mean, had some not so nice shit to say about Nikki Bella. I mean, basically it wasn't as venomous, but I mean, it was a little more personal in terms of that's why John will never marry you, because, like, whatever. I was just like, oh my God, like,
I know.
Is this the Nikki Bella roast tonight? Holy God.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens, because if they either got new writers, they're just realizing that they can't really be too PG anymore. They definitely have to change the landscape to just entice new viewers. I'm not saying, they have to go full bra and panties match, but I mean, just upping the dialogue like that, like using, making fun of her for silicone implants, or, calling Renee Young out for sleeping with Dean Ambrose, like little things like that, but to where it's not like, crazy, but it's definitely like, ooh, they ain't keeping it PG right now. You know what I mean? It's like enticing us to watch more. Do you think this might be a little touch of what we're going to see in 2017 as far as, what they're going to be doing with everybody? I mean, just upping the ante a little bit. You know what I mean? Just, I don't know. It's 2017, man. We don't need to be too PG anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. We have Donald Trump as the president, so the PC era is now officially over. This is why you brought me in. Yeah,
that's right, man. That's it. So things are changing for the good. We also try to get you involved out there, whether you're tweeting us at A Wrestling Pod, Facebooking us at Another Wrestling Podcast, or just go straight over to AnotherWrestlingPodcast.com. You can find all of our links. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and all that stuff, guys. We love hearing from you. But Cooter, during the pay-per-view, during Roadblock, I sent out some tweets and we got some responses. So one little tweet I have, does WWE really need to change the ropes to purple and the canvas every time they have a cruiserweight match? I mean, it just seems like, aren't they supposed to make them a part of them? Like, why do they need to make them, like, different every time? You want to talk about this? I'm going to pull some tweets for us.
All right. I don't really have an issue with it. I think it's kind of cool that they're not that they're trying to keep it separate, but they're trying to give it its own look, its own style. I mean, if you notice, even the heels will shake hands, before the match. I mean, it has a completely different feel than what we're used to, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, we have the same old shit, and some people like the same old shit. But this is a little different. It's refreshing. It's new. It's something we haven't seen. Maybe it does need its own look. I mean, it's a good way, because I know that's what the color ropes they use for for 205 Live, and that's what they did during the Cruiserweight Classic. So, I mean, it's making it its own brand, and I think it's a good idea.
All right, well, we got some people online that will disagree with you, Cooter. First off, we have at WWE Critics. He says, no, it really doesn't do anything. We have at Metal Peter saying, I like the purple ropes, but it seems like way too much work for just one match, but I get why they do it, kinda. Also, at Ocho and Ortiz, they say, I think that's part of the reason the crowd gets taken out of the matches. So they're thinking that...
I will say, because they go and they have these backstage segments, and they tend to have like one or two as they're changing those ropes. I mean, I mean, I can see the crowd getting the steam taken out of them, having to watch all that bullshit.
Yeah, and one other guy on Twitter, Trenton Wright, at Trenton the Drums, he says, I've seen it live. It's such a waste. They have to do so much work to change the ropes and skirts and all that. So, like, even he's seen what happens at a live show, and it's like, we're probably getting a lot of backstage segments to where us at home, we don't really notice it from the commercials and all this other stuff going on. But maybe let's watch that next time to where, okay, we know a cruiserweight match is coming up. How much time do they give them between that and the actual start time of the match to just see, how much time is that killed just to change the ropes all the time, So he says it's just such a waste. I personally don't even see the need for that. A lot of good tweets from that. We also sent out another question. Not mostly a question, but it was mostly about Neville. I said the man that WWE forgot and that Gravity has returned to us. Neville is now is in the cruiserweight division. Is that good or bad? I asked everybody. Pretty much. We've been talking about this for a few weeks now, Cooter. What was it missing? It was missing Neville, and we're like, well, what are they doing with him? We don't know. They're like, it's almost like they forgot about him. And he finally returned, made notice that he's gonna be in the cruiserweight division. And some of the people said, I asked about that, and they say, our friend Marilyn at Ink and Coffee Gal says, I say good. It got a reaction from the crowd, which the CW needed. What do you think about that? Do you think by him coming out as a heel, pretty much destroying all the cruiserweight champions that they've had so far, do you think that's adding a little bit fire into the division now?
It's not just that aspect of him destroying everybody. It's a name recognition, because that roster has been filled with people that the casual fan is not aware of, do not know. They've been exposed to Neville. We've seen him in, big name matches. Like the one with Stephen Amell as his tag team partner. I mean, that got a lot of media attention. Here's what's very important. Like I said, name recognition. We also have a Tajiri coming back. The roster is starting to get a few names that people are aware of. It is good for that brand. Whether Tajiri sticks around or not, maybe he helps get the next guy over. We need, I'd say, another two big names that people are familiar with. I mean, Kendrick was great in terms of recognition, a wily veteran, but Tajiri is just that much bigger of a name. Neville is a great name to have in there. I mean, Austin Aries will be in 205 Live, according to him. Now, let me say this. Have you not enjoyed him on commentary? His first week, I thought he stunk, but every time somebody asks, like Mauro Ranallo will ask him a question, well, what would you do in this situation? Austin goes, what are you talking about? I would just poke him in the eye. And he must have said that line like 3 times in the same episode. What would you do in this situation? Oh, I would just poke him in the eye and go to work. He's awesome, dude.
Yeah, and Cooter, we're going to talk about a little bit later, with the cruiserweights and stuff happening this year. But WWE, is definitely, set the standard, I guess, in pro wrestling this year as far as what's happening is from different divisions, the women's division, the cruiserweight division. Could you see the cruiserweights not be more than just Raw this year? I know they have their own show, but I'm saying like on every show from Raw to SmackDown and their own show to where all you need is like one match on Raw, one match on SmackDown, then you have their live show on 205 Live. Do you think it'll be more than just Raw maybe in 2017?
I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary. I mean, SmackDown is only a 2-hour show. You can get away with it on Raw because they have the third hour. And we basically give them their own third hour of SmackDown at the end of the show. So, I mean, they're basically being presented on both nights, just on different platforms. One on a major brand itself, and one on its own after another major brand. So, I mean, we'll see. I think what they're doing right now is as good as it's going to get for now.
Definitely. Well, guys, girls, everybody listening, once again, head on over to Another Wrestling Podcast. Show us some love. Write some reviews for iTunes and Stitcher and all that fun stuff. Take the minute to do it, because maybe we'll give away some stuff on future episodes to thank you for it. But regardless, guys, this is why you're here. Coming up next, we have the One Man Gang joining us. One half of the Twin Towers. Also, he was the African Dream, Akeem. Let's speak to the One Man Gang. Joining us today is a legend of the business. You may remember him as Akeem the African Dream, but most will remember him as the One Man Gang. George Gray is here today. George, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's a pleasure. I'm glad you invited me to call in and talk a little bit.
From what I see, you got into the business at the young age of 17, working in the Carolina independent circuit. Can you tell us a little bit about why you decided at 17, that's when you wanted to be a pro wrestler?
I was just a big fan of wrestling. I grew up in Spartanburg, and I watched Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, Crockett Promotions, and just was a huge, huge wrestling fan from an early age, and just decided one day just wanted to do that for a living, and just was attracted to it, and luckily I got to do that, for quite a few years. So, I was a lucky person to be able to do what I wanted to do.
Definitely. Now, you worked in a lot of the territories, including the ICW, International Championship Wrestling, WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling, Jim Crockett Promotions, just to name a few. Did you have any particular favorite to work for at that time while you were traveling around?
No, I wouldn't say I had any favorites. I mean, Florida was nice because, you're in Florida, of course, but I wouldn't say there was any particular favorites I had. It was just, enjoyment of being a professional wrestler. I was just, it wasn't a matter of making a huge living or anything like that, trying to become a millionaire off of it. I just enjoyed what I was doing nightly and just was having a great time, at that particular time in my life, for territories, which, that was my favorite, was territories. But then, as years later, what happened to territories, so.
Yep. And now also, too, when you started, you didn't quite have a name, but Jim Ross at the time said about you, because you were an unnamed assailant attacking guys, he called you, he said he's a one-man gang. Did you guys have a name planned, or was that the name that you loved and it just stuck with you?
No, it wasn't any plan to it. It just happened that way, and that's just what they went with from then on, so. It turned out to be good for me, and, I was just the right person at the right place, and the right person just said the right name, and that just stuck with me the rest of my career.
Sure. Now, you also, when you debuted in the WWE as the One-Man Gang, along with Slick, was it easier to work with a manager, to have someone to feed off of? And how was Slick to work with?
It was, I'd never met the man before, but right away, we got along really well, because just our habits were pretty much the same, and he was just an easy person to get along with, and great in-ring personality, great on the microphone, and just a nice person all the way around, so we never had no problems the whole time he managed me, never had a crossword or anything, so, it turned out to be really good for me, but we always joke. I always joke to him and tell him, I could have had a great career in WWF if I got Bobby Heenan or Jimmy Hart. But I had to end up with you, and you ruined my career. he always gets mad. He'd be yelling at me, "What do you mean I ruined your career?"
Well, now, as the one-man gang, you participated in the first ever Survivor Series pay-per-view as a member of Andre the Giant's team. Now, you're 6'9", and what was it like being in the same ring with Andre, who is 7'4"? Because not every day is there someone bigger than yourself, I imagine, during wrestling.
Well, even before that, I'd wrestled him in single matches, throughout my territory days, in all the different territories. He'd always come in as the baby face when he was traveling around, and I was always the heel. So we'd wrestled against each other in single matches. So, I've told people being in the ring with Andre, I felt like a small child, basically, even though I was huge, for a normal human being. But, when you're in the ring with Andre the Giant, it's just, you can't even compare that. It's just, you can't even really describe it unless you've actually been beside the man up close. When you see him on TV or at a distance, but once you get up beside the man up close, this is just totally awesome person, and just unbelievable to his, he was a true giant when you say a giant.
Definitely. Now, you had a little bit of a change going on from the one-man gang to Akeem, the African Dream. Can you take us back to how this idea was created and maybe who was behind it?
Well, I'm not really sure how it was created, but, of course, the owner of the company at the time was the man behind it, of course, because all ideas, anything that would happen, had to go through Vince McMahon, and he was the final say-so on everything. So I'm pretty sure 100% that it was his idea. Slick claims, he gave him the idea, but I can't verify that. But
sure,
Vince is the one that came up with the idea. He's the one that came up with the costume design and basically everything about it. He's the one that broke the news to me that I was going kind of be a it was going to change me into a black man or whatever, and find my roots in Africa, and it was just crazy. I thought it was a joke at the time. I didn't even believe him, until they actually flew me up to New York to get fitted for the costume, so.
Yep.
But, in the long run, it worked out. And when I go out to signings and stuff, people always, man, I loved Akeem. Akeem was the greatest. They always want to see that funky dance, or what they call it, dance, just the arm swing or whatever it was. I don't even know what it was really, but
sure.
Even African American people will come up to me, man, Akeem was the greatest. I loved Akeem. So
there you go.
Obviously, the power of TV, I guess it worked. I'm not sure in today's time if you created a character that way, if it would work that way. So I don't know. But back in 1989, 1988, whatever it was, I guess at that time, you could get away with things like that.
Sure. Now, as Akeem, you also got to team with the late great Big Boss Man and form the Twin Towers. Did you enjoy teaming with the Boss Man, and what was he like to work with?
Boss Man was a super nice guy, I never had no trouble with him, just just a point of history was when I was the UWF champion for Bill Watts Universal Wrestling Federation. I was his world champion, and when I was signed to leave to go to WWF, I had to lose the title, and I lost it to Big Bubba Rogers, who turned out to be, the Big Boss Man years, a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
So it just happened to be I lost the UWF title to Big Bubba Rogers, and then several months later, here we were, got to team up as, him as the Big Boss Man, and so I thought that was just one of those ironic twist of things in history,
WrestleMania is coming up in a few months. You competed at WrestleMania 5 with the Big Boss Man as the Twin Towers, taking on the Rockers, in which you scored the win for your team, pinning Shawn Michaels. Is there anything you could tell the fans about WrestleMania, maybe, and how it feels to perform on the biggest stage of the year compared to maybe any other show during the year?
Well, people ask me about, what it feels like to be at a WrestleMania. It's exciting, but when when you're in the WWF, I mean, you're doing a lot of big shows anyway. So we were traveling so much and on the road so much. You know, when you went into a WrestleMania, it didn't really seem that big to us. You know, not to me anyway. I mean, because we had SummerSlams and other events during the year, and you know, we just. And to us, you know, back in those days, we were taking care of ourselves, basically. We had to get our own rental cars. We didn't have no special buses to pick us up or any, you know how it is nowadays. You know,
Sure.
They have buses to take them to the events, and they, you know, they're well taken care of. In our days, we were pretty much on our own. You know, you get to the event however you had to get there, you know. So, I mean, when it comes to WrestleMania, yeah, sure, you want to be a part of it, but, you know, to me, it didn't really affect me that way. It didn't, you know, because I've been in a lot of big events. I've been in stadium shows in Florida when I was working for Florida Championship Wrestling. I'd worked in the Superdome, you know, for Mid-South Wrestling. So I'd been in big events already, so it really didn't affect me that, you know, this is WrestleMania. So,
Sure.
you know, I tell people that, and they just, you know, they're like, man, I just don't know. I don't know. It just seemed like I'd be really nervous, but it was just another match to me. You know, you just
Sure.
go out there and do what you had to do.
Definitely. Now we have some questions from some fans. One from Ryan in Poughkeepsie, New York. He's asking you if the African Dream name was a rib on Dusty Rhodes at that time, because I believe he had the American Dream.
Well, I mean, no, I don't believe it was, because they brought him in, of course. You know, he came in as, you know, the whatever they call him, the All-American Workman, whatever it was. I don't remember what it was. Put him in the polka dots, and we had matches against each other, me as Akeem, and, of course, him as, you know, Dusty Rhodes. So I don't believe it was. Why? I mean, why would you bring him in if you was ribbing against the guy, right?
Sure. And he's also asking, which was harder wrestling for, in regional promotions like Mid-South, or if the travel grind of the WWF at that time made it harder?
Oh, the WWF grind was way, way harder. I mean, in the territory days, you got to get home every once in a while. You know, you drive to the little town and you could come back home the same night, or you could take your family with you in a vehicle, you know, and make a 2 or 3 day little drive around a circuit or whatever. But WWF, it was, you know, every day jetting to another city, basically just like I tell people, it was just a rock show. We was basically just like a rock show is. We was on tour every day, going to a different city, you know, on a jet plane, and have to get your hotel room, have to get a rental car, have to perform, have to get food. Next day, go to another city and just repeat the same process over and over and over, day after day after day. So the grind on that was just terrible, you know, especially on a family life if you had a family.
Sure. And also, Josh Hill from Red Hook, New York asks about the gimmick battle royal at WrestleMania 17. Did you have any funny stories, and what was it like coming back for then?
Well, originally they wanted me to come in as Akeem, and at that particular time I'd lost a lot of weight. You know, the suit was originally measured for someone at 400 pounds or better, and then at that particular time I dropped down to about 310 pounds. So the costumes, there was no way it was going to fit, you know.
Sure.
So, and they didn't have time to make another one or anything. So Howard Finkel had called and said, well, he wants you to come in as Akeem, and I'll ask him if he can come in as one-man gang, you know. So Howard Finkel, you know, another day goes by, and he calls me back and says, oh, Vince says, yeah, you can come in as one-man gang, you know. So that's how that was. You know, I just went on in there. It was nice seeing the guys, you know, the guys in the gimmick battle royal. The other guys, you know, most of them, I don't even, you know, the guys on the show, except for Austin and a few of the other guys, I didn't even really know who they were, you know, who they are. I never really met them or anything, but it was all nice. You know, it was a good time. You know, I had a good time at the WrestleMania, and got to go out there and, you know, have a few good minutes in the ring and, you know, take a nice little bump over the top rope.
Sure. Now, you also appeared in the movie Stay Tuned, one of my personal favorites. How did this come about, and how did you get into the movie?
Well, that came about just laying around the house here one night, and telephone rings, and it was Terry Funk, and they had offered the role to him. And I guess it just wasn't a big enough part, or he just wasn't interested in it or whatever. And he gave him my name and telephone number and said, contact this guy. He might be interested in doing it. And so the director contacted me, and one thing led to another, and there I was, putting on the costume to go out there and wrestle in the movie against, against the people. So that's how it came about. Really, it was Terry Funk that really put my name in there. That's really the only movie I did. I didn't even really enjoy it. It was just too much time to kill. It's just you take one little 1 minute shot, and then they have to move the equipment all the way around, and it's like took forever. It was just a horrible for me, just horrible. Just so long a time to do it.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the travel with WWE or WWF at the time. Did you ever have any favorites that you like to travel with? Any guys that you love traveling with?
Well, in WWF until the very end, about probably last 6 months or so, me and Slick did all traveling together. Him and I was every day, it was just him and I, because we had the same habits, didn't drink, didn't do any, anything that would mess with your brain or any drugs, anything at all. We were pretty straight, we're straight laced as could be. And, so we kind of stuck together and rented a car, split our hotel rooms and stuff like that, trying to save money on the road. And so that was about it. Me and Slick pretty much 100% of the time until about the last 6 months when they took the managers off the road. And I was by myself basically, so that's when it really became pretty expensive for me.
Definitely. Now, traveling all the time too. People see you all the time on TV. They get to know you. They think they know you when they see you on the road. But if you could tell me maybe briefly about the importance of keeping kayfabe, as they call it, back in your day, compared to like today, where that's pretty much out the window.
Well, back in mainly the territory days, WWF really wasn't that way, because we was flying on jets every day, restaurants, whatever. It didn't really amount to much at that particular time. But territory days, it was very important. If you wasn't part of the show, like a referee or anything like that, you wasn't even allowed in the dressing room. They wouldn't allow like a drink guy to come back in the dressing room to deliver drinks or anything. You have to throw them out, and cuss them out and tell them to get out. It was very, very strict back in the heyday, old school days, as I say. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was important back in those days, because the fans, you sold the tickets basically off of what the fans saw on TV, and the fans pretty much, I say, 80-90% of them really believed what was happening on TV. If you was a heel, they believed that you was really an evil person, doing some dastardly deeds to the good guy. So, when you come to the arena, they would come out and spend their hard-earned money to see that, good guy get his licks in on you, So, they honestly believe what they saw, pretty much everybody. They may say, I knew it wasn't this or that, but in reality, I think they really believe what they saw. They wouldn't come out, and spend their money like they did.
Sure. Now, do you get to actually watch any of today's products by any chance? Or do you keep up with it today?
No, I don't keep up with WWE at all. I just don't have no interest in it. I watch TNA every once in a while. I may DVR and watch it back. Same with Lucha Underground. Mm-hmm. I may watch it, but that's I'm not a full-time wrestling. If I watch any wrestling, I'll just YouTube, old school, sure, Memphis or things like that. Not necessarily nothing with me on it, because I don't watch my matches at all. I don't watch any of my interviews. I just don't like watching it. So I watch, the old Memphis shows and things like that I never really got to see, so more than any of the new product.
Sure. And one thing I want to bring up, too, a lot of the fans out there, I definitely want to let them know about this, too. Unfortunately, in August 2016, your home in Baton Rouge was affected by the flooding down there. How's everything doing? Are you okay? And I know there's a GoFundMe page maybe we could tell everybody about. I'll definitely put it up on our site.
Yeah, our house took in, well, not just our house. I mean, it was thousands of people down here. It was, but ours particularly, our house took in like 3 foot of water. So, pretty much lost, everything, furniture and everything else. And I mean, our animals survived and we survived, so other than that, it's just an act of nature. Nothing could have done to stop it. So, we're in the process of trying to get back, get it rebuilt and get back into it. It's a real slow process, but eventually, hopefully, we'll be back into the house, and, that's just the way it is, so.
Sure. Yeah, we're going to let everybody know, too, about that GoFundMe page, because I know a lot of fans out there, they still love you today. I hope all the fans out there listening can, help out the one-man gang today for that. And is there anywhere people can keep up with you on social media today?
Well, the only thing I do have a Facebook page where, people can ask me questions. I give them answers if it's a sensible question, So, I do have a Facebook page. I'll check in there every once or twice, 3 times a week. Sometimes I might put up a little, people ask me, like somebody asked me about my mohawk, how come I don't wear the mohawk anymore. So I, put up a little answer. And then somebody was asking me about, which character I enjoyed the better, Akeem or One Man Gang, things like that on the Facebook page.
Definitely.
And to track it down, I think it's One Man Gang is the page, but they put the one man. I think it's one man is one word. They wouldn't separate it for some way. It wouldn't separate into 3 separate names. I don't know why. I've tried to change it, and it just won't change. But I just type it in on Facebook. It'll pop up. You'll see me. I'm there as One Man Gang, and Akeem is a double picture on the little picture thing on Facebook. I don't know what you call it, whatever it's called.
Yeah, definitely. We'll link it up on our page when the show goes out. George, I really appreciate your time today, and I really, thank you for coming on the show and being able to talk to all the fans out there.
Well, as I'm glad I was able to. I appreciate you having me on the show, and I wish we had more time. We could talk a little more, but that's the way it is, and hopefully one of these signings somewhere, all the, people always want to know where I'll be at. Hopefully they'll bump into me at one of them somewhere, and I can shake their hand and take a picture with them,
That's right. Well, thanks again, and we appreciate it. We hope you have a good holiday and a Happy New Year.
Yeah, and the same to you, and everybody's listening in on the show. Have a great Christmas, great holiday, and a good New Year. And, the One Man Gang is going to keep on going, baby.
Christmas time. So what are we going to talk about? I love Festivus from Seinfeld, where they get to air their grievances. But, I'm thinking about this year we've had so many good things happen in pro wrestling. They were gifts to us. It is the giving season. It is Christmas. It's the holiday time. Let's talk about some of the best presents that we've gotten this year. But also, with the good comes the bad, Cooter. So at the same time, it's a wrestling Festivus. We're going to air the grievances with each gift that we've gotten this year. You down for this?
So you're saying you want me to be an internet troll mark?
Well, we're both gonna have fun airing our grievances, but we have to talk about the bad, talk about the good, but followed by with maybe what was bad about it.
Okay, all right, I'm down. Let's see. I think I can handle this.
I got the poll set up. I'm ready to air the grievances, but first off, here's a present, Cooter. AJ Styles, probably the biggest thing out of 2016, debuted at the Royal Rumble this year. Nobody, who would have thought that we would have seen AJ Styles this year debut? Some were, WWE's changed its landscape this year from, they're not going to talk to any TNA talent or any other talent unless they come through their own system, and voila. AJ Styles walks in the door, and he walks in with his name. He didn't have to change his name or spell it different. The phenomenal one has arrived, Cooter. That, if anything, that was the greatest gift of of the whole year.
I must have watched that Rumble entrance and the crowd reaction, because that was in Orlando, and that's where TNA taped for all those years down in Universal, and my God, the fans just loved him down there. It was the perfect debut for AJ Styles down there and in the Rumble.
All right, well, with this gift cooter, air your grievances now. What was probably the downside about this? What was the bad part about this?
For me, there is no bad part of. There's nothing I can say bad about AJ since he's been here. That's just my opinion because they've given him the title. They gave him a win over Cena at a major pay-per-view. The only bad thing I can think of, and it has its good and its bad, is the breaking up of the club with the brand split.
Well, here, yeah, we got to get you to air these grievances better because, when he came in, we all know about these stupid copyright things and yada, yada, yada. But, coming in, he was the leader of the Bullet Club over in Japan and whatnot. Comes over here, he forms a club, but we can't call them the Bullet Club. So now we have Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson joining him, but we can't call him the Bullet Club, which that would have made awesome TV this year of having the Bullet Club take over WWE. We know the reasons why and why not or whatnot, but okay, that was like the little downside of it to where it's like, oh, okay, we get them, but now they're called just the club. And then, I've heard a little story about how AJ Styles, when he signed with WWE, asked the Young Bucks to see if they re-signed or not, and they already did, to where he was almost going to talk them into coming with him to WWE. So we would have almost had AJ Styles and the Young Bucks joining the WWE at the same time. And man, I think that's the one downside. That's my grievances about this whole AJ Styles debut. Is as great as it was and is. We couldn't use the Bullet Club name, and we kind of got the B squad of
I gotta
Gallows
speak
and
on
Anderson.
that real quick though. The not using of the Bullet Club name, I mean, that faction is involved in how many different promotions right now. It's like the most dominant faction that we've seen in wrestling, and I don't mean in terms of star power, but in terms of how many different promotions they're all in now. I mean, and that's the good thing about it. The bad thing and why the good thing why they don't use that name, Credo, is how do I want to say this? Recognition.
Well, here's the thing is that, they've thrown a lot of things out the window this year as far as what WWE has been doing, to where, they paid how much money to use CM Punk's Cult of Personality song for every show, every place they went. I want to know what that paycheck was to play that song all the time.
Come on, that was a bullshit band with a one.
Listen, they're paying this much money to use that song in WWE. Come on, Vince, he didn't have a few extra bucks just to buy that Bullet Club name, just to someone made that brand and they could have sold so much merch.
But you know why they don't do that, Credo? And this is what I want to say. Well, no, this is why they don't do it, is because you realize that the Bullet Club is on multiple different platforms in terms of, wrestling companies that they work with. All right, if you're a Bullet Club fan because of AJ Styles and Gallows and Anderson, you want to know who else is in the Bullet Club. You're kind of making other people search out, oh, wow, look, there's the Kenny Omegas and there's the Young Bucks. They're not in WWE. So their whole thought process is, let's keep them engaged on the WWE product, because if you throw out Bullet Club, then you're going to want to start watching Ring of Honor. You're going to start wanting to watch New Japan, and you're not keeping your fans tuned in to you. You're kind of pushing them out to these other outlets, and that's something you don't want to do in business.
All right, airing the grievances, but let's keep the gifts going. What else? What else do you think was a gift for you this year, and maybe I can find the bad of it?
All right, a gift for me is the brand split. And the reason I say that it's a gift is because there are guys who are getting lost in the mid-card who are now, I don't want to say top-tier talent, but they're getting more TV time. They're getting pushes. And I get to see more of certain people than I normally would.
No, yeah.
I'm not getting a double dose of John Cena every fucking week on Raw and SmackDown. That's a plus for me.
Yep. That definitely was a gift. I agree 100% with you as far as the brand split. These, this day and age with WWE having all these names coming up from NXT, it's like we have no place to put them, and a lot of guys do get lost in the shuffle. So that was a good thing. But with the split, Cooter, we got this. We got a lot of split championships, and don't get me wrong, I love championships. I can't get enough of them. But the naming of some of them, the Universal Champion. Now tell me, Cooter, what does Universal Champion mean? Like, are you the champion of the universe?
Yes, the WWE Universe. So, for somebody who says he loves titles, last week you were totally bitching about that UK title with your 50,000 fucking questions. You kind of just stepped on yourself there.
Well, doesn't the UK title fall into the Intercontinental title?
Oh my God, no! Here we go. We're stopping this.
We need a definition of titles because it gets so lost in the shuffle. Because now, okay, the Universal Championship, it's basically the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Same title, it's red, and it has a different name. But, to the odd person, to anybody out there watching it, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, is the universe bigger than the world? Yes, it is. So does that mean the Universal Championship is already greater than the WWE World Heavyweight Championship? It's these little stupid nuances or whatever you want to call them. It's these stupid little things that just bother me. But the brand's
nitpicking.
I am
again.
Oh, I'm trying to air my grievances about this. So that's one of my grievances. It's just the name. Couldn't they have I know you don't want to call it the Raw World Heavyweight Champion and the SmackDown Heavyweight Champion, but couldn't they have done? You have the World Champion on SmackDown, and then you have, I don't know, the something else besides Universal. Anyway, that I don't want to stick on this for 20 minutes, but the downside of the brand split was the unconventional naming of one title. But maybe kind of getting used to it. I need to see more what happens with it. But anyway, let's just keep moving on. There's a lot of other great things that happened this year. Let me think about it. What else happened this year that was kind of good? You know what? One of the biggest pops of the year was Shane McMahon returning to TV. I think that happened to be one of the greatest things we've seen. What did you think about that? I mean, that was a good gift, right?
Until WrestleMania happened. Oh my God, that was a terrible fucking match with a storyline that never had an ending, that also contradicted itself. I mean, Shane had something over his father's head. He gambled it. We never got to find out what it was. And Shane was supposed to disappear or get control of Raw or whatever it was. And instead, we have him as a guest GM with his sister for 2 weeks in his love fest, which was kind of gross. It almost seemed like, you know where I'm going with that one. I don't even want to say it.
As much as a gift that he was, just to air a little bit of the grievances, it's unfortunate that, he left like he did. And, we're not going to know the full story because obviously we're not, we don't know what really goes on backstage, but he doesn't really come back as a person in power. He's not really running the show like Triple H or Vince McMahon. He's just a part of the storyline. And don't get me wrong, everybody loves Shane, but I almost feel like, could you imagine what it would be like if Shane was really in charge?
Let's air some more shit. How about that Hell in a Cell against The Undertaker? All that build up for that one fucking spot. That match was drizzling shits. If I might quote the Ole Anderson, the drizzling shits. Just to see him jump off and do an elbow, which was to me stupid. It wasn't even a cool spot. It was,
and it was for an Undertaker match too. And I mean, that's one of your big things of the year. And granted, there's no more streak, but still, you're having the Undertaker go against Shane McMahon. It was kind of we know that
Undertaker's entrance was longer than the match.
So, here we go. I love it. We're getting this out of ourselves, Cooter, because hopefully 2017 will be focused on more positive things. But there's a few more things we can talk about. I know.
I might sleep well tonight.
That's it, man. We got to get this out of our system. How about even the return of the cruiserweights. We talked a lot about cruiserweights this year, and it's good. The last cruiserweight champion before they brought it back was Hornswoggle, so you know how that ended. But it's great. I love to see these guys, and I love to see them not mixed in with the main roster because they could do a lot of stuff that the other guys can't, and it's almost unfair in a way. Like you can have this one guy doing a 450 splash off the rope and whatever, and you don't see like big guys doing that, and it's almost like the Rey Mysterio syndrome. It's we're going to give him the championship, but we really know that he really can't beat this guy in real life, kind of a thing. So
yeah, Neville even said something about it on 205 Live when he was talking to Kendrick. We basically are the grandfathers of this kind of division because guys our size are going up against these 300-pounders, and that's how we made our names. And now we're in a position to where we can actually be dominant champions, where we fight people in our own weight class. It's a brilliant idea, and now let's air out the grievances, shall we?
One of the biggest things that just bothers me, and it's a shame because they do have this little spot on Raw, and this is before 205 Live. Granted, they only had like a few weeks of showcasing them on Raw every so often. They almost fall into the same problem as like the women's championship, to where they don't know how to book these guys outside of the title. Every storyline has to revolve around the title. Granted, not every guy needs to be in that championship match. We can have two guys feuding over other reasons, which they're kind of doing right now with Cedric Alexander and a few others, but I just feel like they're stuck like the title, and it's okay, we get it. This division needs to be built around a championship, but at the same time, you have more than just the championship going on. Can we get something else going on besides fighting for the championship? That should be one part of the show, but there should also be other things going on, and maybe it's just because they kind of want to get people used to it, or I don't know what the reason is, but I just feel like they can't build a storyline outside of this championship, and that's, like I said, it's almost like the women's championship problem too, what they're having. We'll probably air that.
I'm wondering what next. Deal was with the roster. I think maybe that's why they waited for as long as they did. I don't think they had everybody signed, or they had to wait for certain people to clear other contracts. Even though they were involved in the tournament, they might not have been necessarily like. We didn't see Jack Gallagher until 205 Live, but he was in the Cruiserweight Classic, and we saw him in the crowd at one point during a Perkins match. And I'm like, all right. The other problem I have is they've shown these like little vignettes where they try to get us to learn about who is going to be on 205 Live. Yep. They've had the whole roster out. We still have not seen Tozawa. And I think they even played a vignette about him so the fans can get to know him. We haven't seen him on yet. And then, on top of that, it's like, okay, Tajiri coming soon. Oh, so you're going to bring in the... And I'm not complaining about that because you know me. I'm a huge Tajiri fan. He's one of my all-time favorites. But you're going to bring him in before you've, shown us the guys who signed for the division before. Yeah. We've only seen the Bollywood boys that one time. We've seen Lindsay Dorado like 2 weeks in a row. We see Cedric Alexander every week. Now, in that 1 hour spot for 205 Live, what are we getting? 3 or 4 matches?
Yeah.
You got to spread this out a little bit better. And I like a lot of the guys that we have in there. But, Arya Davari is getting a lot of TV time.
And all in all, it's a good thing that we have this because now, like you said, like a lot of these guys can actually fit in better into the roster being in the Cruiserweight division because now they actually get to make it onto WWE to where maybe years ago they wouldn't get looked at because they weren't big enough or they weren't the right size that they wanted them on TV or whatever stupid reason. But, now they have this division to where they can actually start using guys, but it's almost like whoever's in charge of it or whoever's controlling it still doesn't have it down to really how to make this division flow better. here. And, hey, just airing the grievances, man. Just trying to get some things out there. On top of, like we said, we love it, but, just got to get it out there. But, Cooter, speaking of the cruiserweights, if we move right to the women's championship as well, we saw the death of the Divas title this year and the rebirth of the women's championship, which is a great thing. It's a great gift, man. It's Christmas. This is a good Christmas gift. But once again...
Let me ask you a question about this, though. Were you happier to see the death of the name Diva, or were you happier to see the death of that fucking ugly butterfly belt?
I think you could pretty much categorize them into the same equalness of happy. I was happy to see both of that just fade away. And it was a gift, man. It's finally, it's nothing silly anymore. The women can actually have a women's championship and not be like, oh, I'm a Divas championship. And that Divas kind of like it had its time and place, but they finally moved away from that. But as good as a gift that was, Cooter, there's still some stuff we can air our grievances about, to where almost like the cruiserweight division, and it falls in the same category, I at least believe, is that they don't know how to book outside the championship. You have a lot of girls, you have a lot of women in your division, and now that it's split on rosters, you have the SmackDown Women's Champion and the Raw Women's Champion. You think you'd be able to somewhat even out the playing field, but still, man, I feel like they don't know how to put on another feud outside of it being for the championship, and that's a problem. I don't know. That's just come on. Yeah, we can have something else going on,
especially on the Raw side. I mean, everything has revolved around the title, except for Survivor Series when we actually gave Nia Jax a push. Now it looks like depending on how hurt Sasha Banks is, we're going to get a Sasha Banks Nia Jax feud going. SmackDown, it hasn't been as bad because we've had the Carmella Nikki Bella feud, and now that it's getting a little more interesting because of certain things that get to be said. I mean, and that's outside of the title, but at the same time, I have to agree with you. We can be doing a much better job of making storylines that don't revolve around the title. And again, how many spots on TV are they going to get a week on SmackDown or even Raw now, because we have to throw the cruiserweights in there. So that third hour is pretty crucial. So, I mean, if we're getting 2 women's segments per show, Raw needs to catch up because SmackDown has done a very decent job of that.
That's just one of those things, they had that whole Divas revolution last year. Okay, we start to put more focus on the women. And then it kind of was like, we still don't know how to book them right. And then we were like, okay, let's just get rid of the Divas championship, get rid of that name. They're superstars. They're women. They're going to have a women's championship. That's great. That's fine. These are the right steps. But still, it's like, I don't know if it's just lazy booking. They just don't really care about it. They don't want them to look better than the men. I don't know what the reason is, but it's like, come on. We can put other feuds going on besides for the championship. So just more grievances, Cooter. We got to get out there. That's what's happening. But I think one of the last things I want to get off my chest this year, because we've had a lot of great things this year. And once again, everything we talked about here, were gifts. I think these were gifts to us this year, especially for Christmas, from AJ debuting.
I think you got to rephrase that. They were meant to be gifts.
Well, they were meant to be gifts, but in disguise, we had some grievances about them. But I think from AJ debuting, Shane McMahon returned. We have a brand split now. The cruiserweights are back. My last one I want to talk about is the return of like the icon versus icon match. We got to see a classic matchup of versus Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar, and their last match at WrestleMania 20 was okay, but still, if you talk about anybody in pro wrestling, Brock is a big name. Goldberg is a big name, and Goldberg could show that he could still go. He still looks great for his age. So why not put him in a match? It's just a classic draw of.
You're being too nice.
I know. It's
way too nice.
It's
WrestleMania 20 was by far the worst match in WrestleMania history. Lesnar versus Goldberg. The crowd was more into the guy in the front row who was dressed as fucking Hulk Hogan.
Here's the thing. It was the gift that it's something we really don't get to see all the time because with their names like Goldberg, big name for throughout his career. Brock Lesnar, huge name, won a UFC fight this year. Also technically lost it because he was on drugs, but that's not besides the point. But he's still, they're both huge names coming together for one match at Survivor Series, let alone, one of the big four, showing us that it's a big pay-per-view. You're going to have like this big kind of a matchup. Now, with all this build-up, they even came out, WWE 2K16 of Goldberg on the cover and Brock on the cover and, just them fighting each other. It was a big build-up, right? This big build-up, Cooter, let's air the grievances because the one biggest grievance of this is that it was a minute and 20-something, 37 seconds. I don't know what. It was a minute something match. After all this buildup, you're gonna kill Brock Lesnar for Goldberg. Like Goldberg, are you kidding me? The 1-21-1 was defeated in a minute by a 50-something, almost a 50-year-old. Like is that good? Come on, that's not good storytelling. No, they couldn't have done anything else.
No, listen to me. We spent years building Brock Lesnar as the beast incarnate, this unstoppable force who has not taken a pin since WrestleMania 29 against Triple H in New York. And that's just to appease Triple H's ego, of course, because there's no point in him beating Brock Lesnar ever. That's just my opinion because he's not a full-time wrestler. Nope. Then again, neither is Brock, but Brock is more of an attraction these days than Triple H is. Unless it's WrestleMania season. Whatever. That's not the point. We built this guy up. We had him 2 out of 3 matches beat Triple H. We had him suplex John Cena 16 times, take the world championship off of him. Technically, he never lost that belt to anybody because Seth Rollins pinned Roman Reigns at WrestleMania when he won the title.
Yeah.
We've done all this to make Brock look like he's unbeatable. Nobody's beat this guy.
Nope.
But the bald-headed, gray goateed, senior fucking citizen that is known as Bill Goldberg beats him in a minute and 20 seconds. Why?
What really blows my mind is that, Vince loves his guys, right? Goldberg was not his guy.
Exactly.
Brock was his guy. And I don't know, maybe he's just getting old in his age, but it's like Vince is just trying to shock us every few months now. Like he needs some big shocking moment so that they could write it into the story or something. And I'll tell you what, if anything, if anybody should have won that wasn't Vince's guy, it should have been Sting at WrestleMania. That just would have been better because once again, it was like, oh, Vince had to get the upper hand and, his team had to win. But this, I mean, you have like, I consider him like the next Phenom, the next Andre the Giant. Right now, he is like that marquee guy to where, you put him on the card, he steps into the shoes of like Andre the Giant's on the card or the Undertaker's on the card. Brock Lesnar, the Beast, he's the unstoppable guy that you couldn't beat. And then all of a sudden you're having this 49-year-old guy beat him in a minute. I'm like, what? I thought they were going to ride this gravy train to the end of his contract. And it's like, man, if you're just building this up for a WrestleMania match, like, come on, that's... It just, I don't know. I think personally that's just horrible storytelling.
And there's not enough appearances for them to tell that story, Credo. That's my problem was the very next night on Raw, it was, well, yeah, I had one more spear in me. Do I have another title run in me?
Oh, my God, no.
And it was like, oh, that's exactly right. And I'm like, okay, this is mid-November. And right? And the Royal Rumble's not until January, so he announced himself as the first fucking entrant in the Royal Rumble. And I'm like, that's like a month. We haven't seen him since. And we haven't seen Brock Lesnar since, who is now also in the Rumble. And then they'll be in the Rumble. They'll both be at Raw the next night. And then we won't see them until about 2 to 3 weeks before WrestleMania.
Yep. So, Cooter, we talked a lot, man. And everybody out there listening, please tell us what you love this year. Tell us maybe if you had to air your grievances out. Tweet us, Facebook us, all that fun stuff. AnotherWrestlingPodcast.com. But Cooter, another thing happened this year, too. I got to get out there.
Okay.
Angry Cooter debuted on Another Wrestling Podcast, filling in for Jonathan Benjamin. You're here, man. You're here to stay. But I'll tell you what, man. I have no grievances. There is no downside, brother.
It's early yet. I still haven't been fired. You know why the fans like me is because I get to invoke these reactions out of you. Watch this. I'll give you an example. James Ellsworth.
Oh my God! Fuck this! I can't. No,
The
he
Shining
lost.
Stars.
They're still fucking handing out stupid timeshare stuff. Stop it!
The New Day.
Oh my God!
Longest reigning tag team champions.
When is the next record going to be broken? Please hurry up.
UK and Universal titles.
We already have an Intercontinental title. That's the champion of all the continents. We don't need a separate continent title now.
See, I just get him all wound up, and now he's not going to be able to sleep.
I can't do it. You're a mean one, Mr. Cooter. Well, guys, it's been a fun year, Christmas. I think next week we'll have to do a year in review show, some of the best moments from some of the interviews we've had, and just maybe some moments from the show or whatnot. But, Cooter, I hope you have a joyous Christmas and a Happy New Year.